Should I buy a six-pack plane, or should I buy one that's already got a brand new glass panel in it? This time out on the Rusty Pilot, we're going to talk through the buying options, and the true cost of any buying option on an airplane is time. My first airplane I bought had a GPS in it, a 650 Garmin, and that was a great buy, but we soon upgraded it with some G5s and an Autopilot. That cost us more than money, it cost us time, and we're in the same predicament here with our little VTEL we just bought. But let's talk through, in your buying decision, whether you should go out and get a basic six-pack panel, or you should buy something that's completely done. So on my first airplane, the six-pack panel you see in front of you, plus that Garmin 650, bought that airplane with about 1,000 hours on the engine for roughly $105,000. Assume a budget of about $150,000 if I was going back to buy an airplane by myself at this point. A GA airplane, probably a four-seater like this one, probably really only haul two people plus fuel. But that's a pretty good budget. So from there, we put a Garmin Autopilot in. It cost me another $30,000 to do that, bringing the total up to $135,000-ish. That was a pretty good stopping point and made that plane complete. Probably had 800 more hours left on the engine at $30,000. Figured there was $10,000 worth of engine left on it. When I sold out of the plane, it sold for about $160,000, and that's about what I would figure it was worth and what it would cost you to buy a new airplane. So with that in mind, I found a Sierra about the same condition as I bought into mine, with the engine that's got maybe 300 hours left on it. They're asking $65,000 for it. It does have some damage history with a deer strike, but it's got the Garmin G5s in it already that I had to pay to install. And then it's already got a 650 in it. It's missing an Autopilot. Now, when you look at this airplane, the deer strike doesn't bother me because it's 6, 7, 8 years ago. These people have been flying this plane and it's fine. If something were an issue, it would have come up by now. But if you bought this airplane as a Rusty Pilot and you were going to get out and travel cross country in it, you're going to stick an Autopilot in it because you're going to be sick of hand flying for distances of over an hour, I would say. So you're going to stick another $30,000 in that plane there, in that engine. You're going to end up sticking another $30,000 in it. To do the two at the same time is probably a 6-month process, judging off what I've seen so far. And that's where we're at with our new plane. So here we go. We got to go up and get the engine worked on a little bit that we just installed in it. The current setup's not bad. There was plenty of nice avionics and a good engine monitor in this plane. But we're going to shut down for you a little bit more time and get a complete, hey, that's how I would like it, Garmin panel in there. Because ultimately, I feel like that sells airplanes, not hodgepodge panels like this. So ride along to Tulsa.
To somebody's just to walk into none of that pain, like a hangar that is completely got all the tools in it, a great spot, and a fully finished airplane. And I would have paid, way more than what me and you're going to charge for it, which is because we got all that time and effort, and you got to be kidding me out of the way.
I would add to that, if you think we're only getting to fly the airplane for roughly 4 weeks after we got the engine back before. It worked to our advantage that the shop had an opening that came up early.
Yes.
And not having an Autopilot is a real bummer. So I wanted that to get back. And that changes the type of flying I'll do. This is a VFR airplane the way I look at it. I fly IFR all the time, but that's in a day job with a good Autopilot, good instrumentation. And I do it all the time. We didn't have this plane for so many months. I have to get more comfortable in it, and then not having an Autopilot sucks. But where I'm going with that is we paid for insurance for what will be almost a year to get us a new engine, new panel. We had to pay for a hangar payment. If you had a mortgage, you would have been paying a mortgage and an interest payment on it. Thankfully, we don't. And that's a lot of money. That right there is 10 grand. Just,
oh God,
we didn't get to use.
At least.
Yeah.
I mean, which is one of those welcome to aviation moments. And I think most people that are out there looking to buy an airplane, and they're looking at renting and then they're looking at buying, don't really factor in. Like, when people started trying to buy into the Sierra when I was selling half of it, they were going to finance it. You know, and that...
November 861 Papa Papa 4 Center, Roger.
What they didn't have was the $10,000 for the first hickey. You know, and that's... If you're out here getting ready to buy an airplane, just know that there is a $10,000 hickey in here that you need to be able to stroke a check for and be okay with it and roll on.
We'd like to request direct the initial approach fix.
Yeah, those hurt.
Those hurt. They're painful. I don't like it. But if you can't do it, you really probably ought to just be renting. It's going to be better on you. I like the way my wife's calling. She knows we're flying.
124.87.
Hey.
When I look at ownership, it doesn't really make financial sense. I could go rent a 172, renting an airplane equipped like this, let alone equipped what the airplane's about to look at. You know, that would be very, very expensive. I would guess you wanted to rent the airplane when it's got all new Garmin, everything, probably $350, $400 an hour. But, yeah, the cost per mile, it doesn't make sense for the amount that I fly. Yeah, last year I think I did about 100 hours on it. But I'll tell you what it does. My wife and I want to go to Albuquerque today. We're going to go see the balloon festival. Screw it. We're going to go fly to Albuquerque. And if we decide we don't want to, oh well, we just aren't going to go.
That's right. Well, that's the big deal right there is the adventure. You know, I can go and do whatever, and you're not just sitting at the house not doing anything. It's no different than having a fast boat or a four-wheeler, I would say, too, in that sense. That, you know, you got options with your mountain bike. There's levels of dollars you're spending here, but, you know, for me, closer to my death and my youth, I want to get out and see the world before I die. This is the best way to do it. It's a lot of adventure in doing it as far as just getting out and going. I mean, hell, we're going to go to Tulsa today, eat something, talk to these guys, and fly home. I feel like I want just a little touch up on that. Thank you. I mean, not much, but I feel like I'm pulling and I'm losing. 50 feet.
Also looking for lower.
So, Jacob, what the heck did we buy? We're putting this plane in the shop next week to go get $120,000 plus probably a work done. What did I buy? Because to most people looking at that panel, like, that's a pretty nice panel compared to some steam gauges.
Well, you gave me full autonomy to make the decision. I just had to call you and say, "Are you okay spending this kind of money?" And what we ended up deciding on is we'll replace all of this with a single 10-inch G3X touch. The big debate was whether or not we get rid of this JPI 930, which to me has been one of the best investments to put in this airplane. You get a high quality engine monitor. It's been rock solid. And going with the Garmin. Now the benefit of putting the second display here was that you would have engine data on that, fine. But you would have another MFD page. But you had to spend about $16,000 to get it. Or you could get rid of this entirely and just put the engine instrumentation on the single 10-inch for about $4 grand more. You have something you really like already that really I don't have any complaints about it. I love the way it displays engine data. Yeah, why get rid of it? That's what a lot of people were saying.
Paul's right there because that's really the one the Bonanza guys prefer, too. Like, if you were to put that up to a vote on a Bonanza forum, it'd go 60% that piece of equipment.
Yeah, so I would say, you know, if people had to choose, JPI is going to win. You've got Electronics International with their MVP 50. Some people prefer that. The cool thing about the MVP 50 is that, you know, you've got a flap indicator here. You have your landing gear indicators here. what I wish the JPI would have done, and I'm not really sure how they would have done with the screen real estate they have, but you can input these discrete inputs, you know, what's your flap position, what's your landing gears, down or up, in transit. That I think is pretty cool. But yeah, for the most part, this is what people like. The reason why I really wanted the EIS from Garmin was because I think on the YouTube channel I have a video from many years back where I overlaid engine data, and you can only get the engine data, but if you have the Garmin set up, you can overlay engine data with what was your vertical speed, what's your actual barometric corrected altitude, all these other data points that you just don't get, pitch and roll.
Yeah.
Because essentially the G3X is like a flight data recorder. It's got a ton of data that it's recording and logging at 1 second intervals that you can download, and I think do some cool stuff on YouTube. It's not a one-way decision as far as what we're going to do. We can always say later we'll replace it, but at least for now we'll just keep the JPI.
Calling forward.
By the way, real quick while we're at it, can we put this over?
Yeah, man, sit yourself there.
Can't really catch that call.
Put a rest on my head. I get it for you.
I'm either 9, you should be on forward center 132.2.
All right, now that I've turned my attention away from the airplane, where are we at? Let's go back 10 degrees to the right, down 100 feet. This plane and me, we fly like a drunk man would walk.
And November 560, Bravo Delta, Roger. Just going to maintain 4,000. No, 4,000.
So that goes for the flight display. We'll do a Garmin G5, which is a requirement. You can put a GI 275. I personally like the look of the GI 275s over the G5s, but there's some stuff that I'm not smart enough that we were told just save the money and don't get the GI 275. We're putting in a GTN 750. I'm a big fan of the Avidynes. You know, these Avidynes make a lot of sense to me because they're set up like the FMS that I fly in the airplane. Very, very simple. I like it. We have an airplane with a GTN 750. I don't know why anyone would have put that in a jet. But it is there. To me, it's a little fumbly, but the installer said I have no interest in trying to make the Avidyne talk to a Garmin Autopilot. It's just not something. If you want to do business with me, you got to accept. You got to go with Garmin on everything, and that's fine. I'll learn. I'll get past my grievances. Probably end up liking it a lot. About the only other thing that and then we'll put a GNC 355, and what that is, it's kind of like a 650, so a smaller 2-inch tall display for a comm and a GPS navigator. Most of the time when I'm flying RNAVs into a lot of places. The place you're going to take the Bonanza into, it's going to be a lot of RNAVs. We have an ILS back home. You still have an ILS on NAV1, but there's not a NAV2 that we're going to have.
Yep.
And then transponder is just going to be a, no, it's a 345. And the reason why we couldn't keep that, because I had asked about why can't we just keep that, is if you want traffic and weather data to be displayed on the G3X Touch, you have to have an ADS-B in from Garmin to do that. So that is only ADS-B out. The way that we're getting ADS-B in, so displaying on this display here and on the iPads, is actually through a box called a Skytrax 100B, I want to say. It's just a little green box behind here in the cockpit.
Right. Does that box come out or stay?
It does, yeah.
All right. So
the only two things we are keeping the audio panel at PS Engineering. There was really no reason.
So that comes out.
November 8, Mike Bravo, contact 4.
Yeah, the only things we're keeping are these two.
Okay. All right.
The audio panel, I really like it.
November 8, Mike Bravo.
We were already going to have to rewire one, so we could have spent money buying a GMA 345, which in my opinion doesn't look as good. It does have some other functionality if you do the remote mounted one that integrates with the G3X. But not the biggest deal in the world.
Contact 40132.97.
And just like that, we arrived at Tulsa Riverside. Beautiful, beautiful airport. Obviously, the river's right in front of it. Casinos are right across from it. Tulsa's a great little area. There are 13 trainers you just passed on the ramp there waiting to get out. And as good pilots, we're trying to get clear of the active where everybody can use it. There are 2 tower frequencies and 3 runways, and a lot of training going on there as we get ready to pull up at Power Masters in just a second when we turn the corner here. And just like that, we were at Power Masters in Tulsa to get the engine worked on. There were some fuel flow issues that were not set up right. As you install stuff, you're going to have to tweak it. It just is the way it is. In this episode of the Rusty Pilot comes to an end, I would tell you that I would always buy a fully completed project and pay a little bit more than to have to go through what we're going to go through, which is a full year of owning an airplane, paying fixed costs, and not being able to fly it.